Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 1095. 1095, Tuesday, April the 7th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, I absolutely have to mention that this is, I guess, my 3-year anniversary of doing TowerGate videos. Now, I have to thank Birdwell. That's right, Birdwell. I have to thank you for keeping track of that because I never would have kept track of something like that. But I noticed you've been doing the countdown for the last couple of days, so I do appreciate you out there, Birdwell, keeping track of how many videos I've done. I try to forget, quite honestly. I didn't think it would ever go on this long. I knew it would take a while, but I didn't think it would go on this long, and we still have a long way to go. But I want to be here to the very last round, my friends, until the deep staters are held accountable for their crimes. I'm not going away. So thank you very much, Birdwell, for keeping track of the 3-year anniversary, which is, I assume, today, if I've been following your countdown correctly. So, yeah, 3 years. It goes pretty fast, it seems like. Anyway, let's go ahead and get with the news of the day. Of course, I promise I will go through the voting for the Dumbass of the Week, and we will absolutely get that done in this video at the end, because yesterday I just thought that story was too important not to cover, and I rambled longer than I normally would on that story. But I actually have a couple of follow-up items on that story as well today, a couple other items, and then we'll get right into Dumbass of the Week. So thank you very much for putting up with that, putting up with me at this point. So, just a couple follow-up things. So there was a story written in the Wall Street Journal, which I didn't even comment on last week, because I didn't know how relevant it was or if it mattered all that much. But because, of course, we were talking about the fact that Attorney General Barr summons Durham to Washington, D.C., having something to do with some high-value targets that they've been investigating. We now know it's CIA-type people. We now know it's this group within the ODNI, which includes Sharamella. And, of course, we know his connections to Atkinson, and therefore it appears that there is a connection. And that may be what is going on. I don't know, but it certainly would make sense. So there was another story, though, that I didn't even comment on last week, which was in the Wall Street Journal. And that story is saying, and this was also mentioned in the Washington Examiner piece by Jerry Dunleavy that got so much attention last week. And in the Wall Street Journal, the original source of the story says that a former CIA official has recently sought legal representation following the Durham investigation interviews of intelligence officials. And he also notes here that Durham's also, his people there, I guess his staff, has also interviewed agents and analysts from the NSA and the FBI. So in addition to the firing of Michael Atkinson around the recent, and things going on about the investigation, Durham's investigation, the Wall Street Journal telling us that a former CIA official has recently sought legal representation. So obviously, Durham has found the sweet spot. He knows that that this entire coup was a plot, and he knows that it was disinformation created, manufactured by Brennan and Clapper and Comey, all working together, which is what became the so-called evidence to launch all these investigations, FISA warrants, and all the other things that happened. So, yes, John Durham is definitely closing in on the culprits. And it should also be noted that John Durham, Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, if you go back far enough into his career, will find that he was an advisor to Bill Clinton. So, we can go as far back into this as you want to, and you will see you can connect dots for hours and hours and hours. When you take these people's names, you put them on a board, and you start connecting dots, you'll see they're all connected to each other going back for a very long time. These people are all connected. And I think they were so connected and in tune with what they were doing that I don't think literally had to communicate with each other about, hey, I'm going to do this, you do this, or whatever. They all knew what they were doing, and they all acted in doing their own thing as part of the overall thing. Certainly Comey and Clapper and Brennan were absolutely, and you can throw Peter's Been Stroking Us into the mix. They all knew exactly what they were doing. Whether or not, Comey may try to say, or Peter's Been Stroking Us, or McCabe, they might try to say that they were duped, and I certainly expect that that's going to be their defense. They're going to say they were duped by Brennan and Clapper, that they totally believed Brennan and Clapper, but I don't think anyone's going to believe it. I don't think it's going to fly. But anyway, just another note, a former CIA official recently sought legal representation following the Durham's investigators' interviews of intelligence officials, which they've really been honing in on over the last couple of weeks. And this story was the story that broke last week. So the timing puts you right there. Now, in terms of Sharamella, who we now know was a part of this group within the ODNI, which is likely, if all these dots, connecting all these dots is correct, and the firing of Michael Atkinson has to do with the fact that Durham's people have discovered that Sharamella was one of the people inside this group within the ODNI. If those connections, if making those connections is what led to Atkinson, and I don't know, I'm speculating, but if those connections are what led to Atkinson being looked at and then relieved or fired or whatever, that all makes sense. But even if that's not the case, at the very least, they have discovered that Sharamella was involved and was part of that group. Now, Durham certainly knows at this point, in addition to that, other things we all know, and probably some things we don't know about Sharamella, which is that not only was Sharamella involved in the Ukrainian impeachment hoax, but he was also working with Atkinson, but he was also involved in the original coup plot. Sharamella was the one who hosted the January 19th of 2016 meeting at the White House with Ukrainian officials where they were told to clear Hunter Biden and to investigate Paul Manafort. He also was working closely, Sharamella was also working closely with Chalupa to get Manafort. And of course, that's how we got the phony Black Ledger. Of course, we know that it was Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, who tasked Sharamella to the White House, to the NSC and the White House, the National Security Council. He did that in the summer of 2016. And Sharamella had formerly been working for Susan Rice. So clearly, Mr. Potato Head identified Sharamella as someone who he could count on to help carry out the plot. And it's very well known from the background that we did on Sharamella that he was radicalized. He was radicalized back when he was in college at Yale. We know from his bio that he became involved with a bunch of really radical left-wingers. We know that he became associated with the Atlantic Council, these George Soros organizations, the folks over there at CrowdStrike. Those are all the peers of Sharamella. And we know from his bio that he got very radicalized at Yale. He led a bunch of student protests and demonstrations that were all, pushing very far left globalist agendas. And so this guy was highly radicalized. And it's probably the thing that got him elevated up into working on Susan Rice's national security team. And then from there, he must have been a star. They must have looked at, hey, we got this guy, Sharamella. He's totally out there. He's right on board with everything that we need. And right now, we need someone as an operative who can do the dirty work. So I think that he was identified, spotted, and either Brennan noticed him or knew him prior to that, or else someone pointed him out to Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, and said, hey, this is a guy that will actually do the dirty work. And he would be happy to do it. And so it looks like that Sharamella and Atkinson and Mary McCord and some other people realize that their activities in 2016 were highly illegal as being part of the coup, and that the Ukraine hoax was an effort to get rid of Trump and to shut down the investigations that were going on that would reveal the crimes that he's a part of, along with Mr. Potato Head. And I would not be the least bit surprised if Mr. Potato Head is guiding or somehow leading Sharamella along through this process, even though he's no longer in government. My guess is Brennan and Sharamella probably still have communications, and it's probably Brennan who's been kind of behind the scenes, sort of orchestrating these activities of Sharamella, working closely with Atkinson and Mary McCord, and prior to that would have been, what's his name? So, however you look at this thing, there's just too many lines that intersect, too many dots that connect to think that these things cannot be related. They certainly have to be related. And there's probably other information we simply don't have right now. But anyway, it's interesting to note that while Durham is investigating all these people, interviewing these CIA, NSA, FBI officials, you've got a former CIA official going to get legal representation. And you've got Atkinson being fired. And, of course, all these other people, most of these people now have been moved out. Of course, Rick Grinnell is over there with Kash Patel, identifying the deep staters and removing them literally every day. They are removing swamp creatures. We're just not necessarily hearing about it. Now, after this firing, of course, I guess some of you have read the statement by Atkinson, which is total bullshit. And I can only think that he must have Andy McCabe's lawyer, because McCabe did the exact same thing. He put out the same type of bullshit letter where he doesn't mention a single thing about any of the things he was involved in. If you read Atkinson's letter, it's not really addressed to anybody. It's just like this letter, the same thing as McCabe's letter, to make himself look like he was this faithful, loyal government servant. Which in fact, there's no evidence that he was loyal, faithful, and servant to the people of this country. Maybe a loyal servant to the deep state, but certainly not to the people of this country. And he absolutely was involved in everything. I mean, Atkinson, he was involved in everything, going all the way back to the original Operation Crossfire Hurricane, FISA warrants, investigations into all the Trump's people, the Ukraine hoax. I mean, this guy's knotted up in everything. There was overwhelming reason. But again, there has to be usually some legal cause stated for why you fire an SES employee. And we haven't been given that yet, other than Trump wasn't happy with him. But there has to be something they actually did that could be, a violation of, yeah, we all know all the things he did. But I mean, as far as on the official level, there's been no finding of Atkinson committing any crimes or doing anything like that, other than the fact that we have Huckleberry Horowitz, who also wrote a letter in support of Atkinson. And in fact, in Huckleberry Horowitz's letter, I do believe it shows 39 examples of Atkinson's malicious violations of law and policy. It's just that they don't hold him accountable for it. But it's right there in Horowitz's report. 39 examples of Atkinson's malicious violating of the law and policy, with an error rate of 93%. I mean, that alone, forget everything else, that alone tells you he's either incompetent or corrupt. So you also have Susan Collins and Chuck Grassley coming out, and they say that they want to know what the cause was, what the reason was. I believe Grassley is basically saying that is it typically when the president fires an inspector general, an SES employee like that, they must state in the letter what the reason was. It must be in their letter what the cause was. And he even says that the law requires that the president put the reasons for the firing in his letter or in his notice. In And again, I think this, and the fact that we haven't heard a single word out of Attorney General Barr tells us a lot as well. He hasn't commented, and he wouldn't comment if it had something to do with Durham's investigation, because he will not comment on the ongoing DOJ investigation. But if you just want to look at beyond all the other things regarding the Atkinson, as far as the whistleblower complaint's concerned, if that's what they're looking for, we know that the allegations of a whistleblower, that the type of allegations that were made did not even fit the description of a whistleblower. We know that Atkinson did not review the complaint at all. We know that Atkinson did not even listen to the call. We know that Atkinson also allowed the whistler to make changes to his complaint and all the other things. So there's overwhelming reason. Trump didn't have to go specifically into it, but he could find plenty of specific reasons. The IG's recent release showing 39 cases, 93% failure rate by Atkinson for oversight. He could show all the things that he did in terms to the... So yeah, there's plenty here without going into anything that has anything to do with Durham's investigation. There's plenty there. I mean, does Trump have to spell it out? I mean, Grassley sits on the damn Judiciary Committee, or used to head the Judiciary Committee. 3 years he headed that Judiciary Committee. He knows exactly what's going on. This is just bullshit. So, I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot of smoke going on around this Atkinson firing, but they can go and challenge it if they want to. But my guess is, at some point, if they try to push too hard, they're probably going to get a letter from Barr saying, well, you know, we have an ongoing investigation, and there were some things in the investigation that led us to believe that he may not be the best man for the job right now. Or they could just use all the things from the Horowitz report, all the Horowitz reports, because Atkinson's a target of all of them. There's plenty there if you want to find a reason, if you want to find cause for why Atkinson was fired. But his letter is bullshit. Total bullshit. He doesn't say a word in his letter about all the things he was involved in. Doesn't say a word. Just like McCabe. Same thing. Must have the same lawyer. Let's see. We have Boris Johnson has been moved into ICU, internal intensive care unit, which means his situation is getting more serious. Of course, he is the president. They want to make sure if he has to be put on a ventilator that he's at some place where they have one, and that's in ICU. But certainly everybody watching very closely to see if Boris Johnson is going to pull out of this thing. His case has obviously been upgraded to being in serious condition. So I guess a lot of people pulling for Boris. Of course, we have we learned yesterday that the three heads of this, or the three of the main players for this Russian Alpha Bank, which Christopher Steele slandered in the dossier, have now filed a slander suit against him. And so that will be moving forward. And the funny thing about that is when Steele put these guys' names into the dossier and talked about their bank, Alpha Bank, he actually misspelled Alpha Bank. The Alpha Bank that they're partners of is spelled ALFA, Alpha. But Steele spelled it ALPHA, Alpha, like the Latin alphabet or something. So that shows you how much, how accurate Steele's report is. He didn't even get the name of the bank correctly. But now these three bankers, I think two of them are Russian and one of them's, I don't know, he's got like a Muslim name. So, but there's three of these super rich Russian oligarchs, or super rich oligarchs that are, I guess, the top tier people for this Alpha Bank. They have now filed a slander suit. I guess that's what the suit's, well, their lawsuit's going to say that Christopher Steele slandered them and their company in that report. So yes, Christopher Steele now being sued. He may not want to talk to Durham's people. He may not want to talk to anybody, but he's about to talk to, he's about to be deposed by the Russian oligarchs' lawyers. Let's see here. What else have we got? Yes, it looks like the Rotten Reverend Clinton, it looks like her emergency appeal to stop her court-ordered testimony has been rejected, not just but rejected by the court, but even by the State Department and the Department of Justice lawyers themselves. Both the State Department and the DOJ lawyers argued in court yesterday with Judicial Watch to reject the Rotten Reverend Clinton's writ of mandamus. In other words, her effort to avoid giving a deposition to Judicial Watch ordered by the court. So even the State Department attorneys and the DOJ attorneys said that the Right Reverend Clinton's writ of mandamus does not hold water, and that she should have to give her deposition to Judicial Watch. So it looks like that's probably how that ruling is going to go in that appeals court. So I would think that's going to move forward, and that's good news for Judicial Watch and all of us. I'm dying to hear the Right Reverend Clinton explain her crimes. Now, let's go ahead and get to Dumbass of the Week. Okay, a much belated Dumbass of the Week. Okay, let's go ahead and go through this. We have Joe Booty, and he is going to go with the captain of the Venezuelan ship that rammed the cruise ship. And of course, I understand that Venezuelan ship actually sank. I don't know if people died on that particular ship or not, but yeah, the captain of the Venezuelan Navy who rammed the cruise ship, and his boat is the one that sank. We have Michael Lee. He's going to go with Andrew Cuomo. Mark Miner will go with the person who wrote Biden's Saturday tweet. I've almost forgotten which one he's talking about now, but I think I know. Susan Lowell is going to go with Michael Atkinson. Larry Lyons, our good friend Larry, is going to go with John Carlin. Yeah, that's whose name I was trying to think of earlier. John Carlin, Mary McCord, and Atkinson. Joe Mack is going to go with Bill Gates. Yes, and his idea for health through depopulation. Well done, Joe Mack. Yeah, Bill Gates is nuts. I've heard what he said. Ronnie DeMasters is going to go with Atkinson. Mystic Meadows Homestead is going to go with Maduro for seizing the cruise ship. Then his second pick is Macron, and third is the Cali Police. Yes, the California Police for arresting that surfer out there all by himself in the ocean. I guess that's not social distancing enough. Let's see, Napoleon Smith is going to go with the California Police, the corporate mainstream media, and Jim Acosta. Peaches McBee is going to go with the Bug-Eyed Fool, Adam Schiff. Peter, our good friend Peter in the Great Northwest, is going to go with Rachel Madcow, Ricky Madcow. With her, the boats won't get there. Well, they got there early, along with Madam Botox and the Bug-Eyed Fool. Oregon Outback is going to go with Pompeo for his warmongering in Iraq. Dennis Waddell will go with Dr. Fauci, the Wild-Eyed Commie, Ocasio-Cortez, and the Bug-Eyed Fool, Schiff. Keith Fellows will go with Schiff, de Blasio, and Cuomo. Lori Holt is going to go with Chuck the Cuck, Cuomo, and Dr. Fauci. Sue Sung will go with Dr. Birx and Fauci, the Birx and Fauci show, along with Captain Crozier, or however you say it, along with Michael Atkinson. Sir Jazz is going to go with Cortez, Ocasio-Cortez, and the disgruntled Bernie brothers. Yes, the disgruntled Bernie bros, along with Biden. Jeanette Bateman will go with Madcow, Ricky Madcow, along with Cuomo and Michael Atkinson. Jonathan Cassidy will go along with Bill Gates, yes, of course, the corporate media, and Chuck the Cuck. Spectre is going to go with me for saying that the MSM would rally around Trump in 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know if I did say that, but if I did, yeah, I am a dumbass. Let's see, the libs and journalists who blame Trump would be his second pick. Let's see, and next we have Christine Watkins. Christine Watkins is going to go with Pelosi galore. Mr. Hollywood High will go with anyone who refuses calling the China virus the China virus. Yeah, pretty much. That would make you a dumbass. Moving in and out, we'll go with Madam Botox. Alan Williams will go with the Venezuelan captain. Gene Alley, he's going to go with ABC, Dr. Fauci, and Madam Botox. Yes, ABC is really... and that reporter they got, Jonathan Carl, he's been getting his ass kicked by Trump the last 2 days in a row. Mark Tezak will go with Fauci. Straight Arrow will go with people who fell for the scandemic. Friend in Liberty will go with Dr. Fauci. Gregory Woolery will go with Cuomo. Perk Dog will go with the deep state players / mainstream media, along with Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci. Michael will go with Chuck the Cuck, Madam Botox, and the Venezuelan captain. Youngblood is going to go with that wussy, either captain or caption. I couldn't tell if he meant captain or caption, but I think he probably means captain. Stage Door Johnny will go with the Bug-Eyed Fool, Chuck the Cuck, and Madam Botox. Jenny tweets. Jenny will go with Dr. Fauci and the media's stupid questions. Joe Christensen will go with the AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, the Wild-Eyed Commie. Jamie Anzavino will go with the Bug-Eyed Fool, Mr. Potato Head, and Pelosi Galore. Bird, well, will go with the reporters who are more sick than the virus, or more sickening than the virus. Also the SJWs, and Schiff, Pelosi, and Schumer. Boy, you got a lot of picks in there, Bird. You managed to squeeze about 9 things into that. Kimberly Smith will go with Trump for giving Fauci and Birx their jobs. Actually, I think that Pence appointed them, but they would be the natural picks because they are the top 2 people in those top 2 disciplines, and they've both been there for like 50 years. I think Fauci served like 6 presidents. But I get your point. Kimberly, you're right on. Sherman Lynn will go with the media for not carrying Trump's press conferences. Well, that's probably hurting them, ratings-wise. Judy Morey is going to go with Bill Gates and the cops out there in Cali, along with the Rotten Reverend. Maura, the lovely and talented Maura, she's going to go with the Wild-Eyed Commie, AOC, along with Bill Gates and Ricky Madcow. Net is going to go with the Red Chinese Wufan Commie, Slopehead, CCP, Pinko Flu. Did you get that? The Red Chinese Wufan Commie, Slopehead, CCP, Pinko Flu. I fluck you up, round eye. See, Freddie Schaffer will go with the White House Press Association for banning OAN, along with Chanel, what's her name, the reporter there. Of course, she's back in there. She's Stephanie Grisham's personal reporter, I think. And of course, Freddie wants that to go a second and a third time. 3 votes for the White House Press Association. Yeah, and they got a beatdown. I don't know if you saw this, Freddie, but they got a beatdown from the Department of Justice yesterday because they actually wrote a complaint letter. Now, this was actually a complaint letter coming from Rolling Stone magazine because their reporter has been kind of booted out. He's the asshole that, well, I don't have time, but anyway, it was from Rolling Stone bitching about the fact that their reporter is not able to get in the press conference because they're having, the seating, the way they're doing the seating, there isn't room for as many people now because they're doing every other seat for social distancing, and he's been kind of, bumped out, but they're still allowing, what's her name from ONN to come in there, so they made a complaint to the DOJ regarding the White House Press Corps Association, and of course the DOJ shot him down. So there's no law. I mean, it's up to the press secretary. It's not like a law that we have to let you people in. And he's like, hey, the White House Press Association, they're just an organization that was set up that we recognize. But at any time, the president or his press secretary can override them at the drop of a hat. They have no power. Trying to lean on the White House Press Association and Rolling Stone, finding out they have really no power over anything. So, screw them. Rocky M. Rocky Tucker, I just say Rocky usually. Any doubt, let's see. Any doctor calling pneumonia deaths coronavirus deaths. Yes, it appears that that's happened now on a couple of occasions. In fact, I think maybe with one of the governors was trying to say that someone died of coronavirus when it was actually pneumonia. So yes, that would make you a dumbass, and probably, I would think, if you're a governor, should probably make you resign. Flat out lying about something like that, if you knew you were lying when you said it, yeah, that's pretty serious. That makes you a dumbass and more. Jay Wexler is going to go with the White House Press Corps for their gotcha questions, along with Dr. Fauci and the Wild-Eyed Commie. Ricky Ricardo is going to go with the Green Party DNC. Yeah, they pretty much are. At least a certain group of the DNC should join the Green Party. They don't fit in the Democratic party. That's the neoliberal party. The far left progressives need to go join the Green Party. I don't know why they keep beating their head against the wall. They continue to try to get their agenda passed through the DNC, through the Democratic Congress, which, it's a losing effort. But they continue. It's like they're beating their head against the wall. They really do need to join the Green Party. They just need to join the American Communist Party. I mean, they're still around. They've been around for 100 years. The American Communist Party's out there, and that's where the progressives really need to go. Cards is going to go with the cruise ship companies. Yeah, I mean, these cruise ship companies, they're a little dirty, too. They don't pay U.S. taxes because they list their businesses in these Caribbean countries and things like that. So, yeah, you almost don't feel some pity for them. But the idiots who actually get on these cruise ships, you got to wonder what they're thinking. Hey is going to go with Henry Kissinger. Yeah, Kissinger. Yeah, I think his New World Order globalist agenda, he's still pushing it. Still pushing it. And, God, you'd think this guy'd be dead by now. Kissinger's still alive, I guess. Okay, so the thing about yesterday's, or 2 days ago, the voting and Dumbass of the Week, normally you'll have about 8 or 10 primary people in every week. Sometimes it's less, sometimes 4 or 5. Just depends on how many left-wingers had a really good week. But what was unusual about this past voting for Dumbass of the Week is how many different people we had nominated. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You're 27, 28 different nominees. That's way high. That's 3 times, 4 times what we normally have. So a lot of people fighting for votes. So the top vote getter with that many people, the top vote getter only got 9 votes. And that was a tie. So this week's Dumbass of the Week, we had a tie for first place between Dr. Fauci and Pelosi Galore. So Dr. Fauci and Pelosi Galore sharing the honors for first place in Dumbass of the Week. Coming in second place was the lying corporate media. And coming in third place, we had a 4-way tie. 4-way tie for third place, which would include Kumo, Bill Gates, the Wild-Eyed Commie, AOC, and Michael Atkinson. Tying. 4-way tie for third place. So there you go. Fauci and Pelosi winning first place. Dumbass of the Week. And, the corporate media coming in second. And Kumo, Gates, AOC, and Atkinson. 4-way tie for third. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy. See you. Bye.